Every morning at exactly 8:17 a.m., she arrived at the Plaza de los Pigeons. 31 years, not a single day missed. Rain could fall in silver sheets, heat could shimmer off the stones, winter could freeze the benches solid, but Clara always came. She sat on the third bench from the fountain, tucked her coat around her, and opened a small paper bag of yesterday's bread. With slow, gentle motions, she scattered crumbs in soft arcs across the stones. The pigeons knew her well. They gathered at her feet without hesitation, cooing, fluttering, speaking to her in the only language they had. Across the street, high on the fourth floor of San Lucas Charity Hospital, a man watched her through a window. He had been there for a week, 68 years old, a heart attack survivor, a patient with no name, no relatives, no stories he was willing to tell. The nurses called him the Silent One. For 7 days he sat by the window and watched the woman feeding the pigeons, and on the 8th morning he finally spoke. His voice was thin, fragile, a man gathering the last of his strength. "I need a wheelchair." The nurse hesitated. He was still too weak. He shouldn't leave the building. But something in his eyes, something pleading, urgent, quietly desperate. She finally agreed. 10 minutes, she said. No more. He was rolled outside, the blanket across his legs trembling in the breeze, his hands trembling even more as he pushed the wheels forward. He crossed the road slowly, breath shallow, bones aching, heart determined. And when he reached the third bench, the bench where Clara always sat, he stopped. Clara didn't notice him at first. She was scattering crumbs, watching the birds with her familiar soft smile. But she felt the shadow fall over her, still, silent, unmoving. She lifted her eyes, and the bag of bread slipped from her hand. The pigeons scattered into the air as her breath caught in her chest. He was older now, thinner, paler, breathless. But the way he tilted his head, the way he bit his lower lip as if fighting back words. Clara knew that man. Her voice came out barely living. "Mateo." He swallowed. "I'm sorry, Clara. I'm so sorry you have to see me like this." 31 years collapsed into a single aching heartbeat. Clara stepped closer, disbelief trembling in every breath. "You died," she whispered. "They showed me your coffin, your death certificate. They told me you drowned, and they buried an empty box." Mateo's eyes glistened. "I was there," he said softly. "In the back of the church, behind the pillar. I watched you cry for me." Her hand rose toward his face, but she hesitated, afraid he might disappear again into thin, merciless air. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you let me believe you were dead?" He looked down, ashamed. "Do you remember the government lab I worked for in '92? His voice trembled. "They weren't making medicine, Clara. They were making a weapon, something that killed slowly, silently." He took a shaking breath. "I found out. I made copies of the files. I thought I could expose it." His voice tightened with old fear. "That night, 2 men came to our house. They showed me photos of you, walking home, unlocking our door. Alive." Clara froze. "They gave me 2 choices," Mateo said. "Disappear forever, or watch you die of respiratory failure." So I left, and I let them stage my death. Tears slipped down Clara's face, a lifetime of grief undone in seconds. "You should have trusted me," she whispered. "We could have run away." He shook his head weakly. "They would have found us, and they would have killed you. I couldn't risk that." For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. 2 lives separated by fear, reunited by fate, broken by time. Finally, Mateo said softly, "I'm dying, Clara, truly dying. And before the end, I needed to see you one last time." She took his hand. A hand she'd memorized once, a hand she thought she'd never touch again. "I forgive you," she breathed. Relief washed over him like warmth. And then, as pigeons circled back to the scattered crumbs, as morning sunlight softened around them, Mateo let out a final, peaceful breath. His hand slipped gently from hers. The next morning, at exactly 8:17 a.m., Clara returned to the plaza. She carried no bread this time, just a single blue flower, the same color as the cologne bottle he used to keep on their bedroom shelf. She placed the flower on the third bench and whispered, "Goodbye, Matteo, and thank you for finding your way back to me." Then, for the first time in 31 years, Clara turned away from the plaza and walked toward a new life. A tiny pigeon followed her, its little feet tapping behind her on the stones. Clara smiled softly. "Come along," she said. "I'm done staying still." And the plaza, which had held her grief for 3 decades, finally let her go.